Hello. Hey, 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 everybody. It is time to get down to business. We have 45 minutes. It's 2 o'clock, top of the hour. So I hope you show up because I am going to begin teaching. Hi, Amy. So, one of the things I want you to do, there's Tammy, Sally. All you girls are showing up. Great. I'm going to ask you to hold your comments for the teaching, okay? So hold your comments for the teaching because I want to get through this teaching and I want to not be distracted by your comments and I want to give you as much information as I can possibly give you because this is some really good stuff. This is stuff that I've learned the hard way. This is all research that I have been doing and has all come in from you know where. So that I can get, it's, let me just put it to you this way. It is not, set point weight is not about a plateau or plateaus, but it can have something to do with it as well. How do you like that? I don't know. Maybe I can get rid of the comments. There it is. I can. I just did. So, if you want to comment, fine. But let me just say, I will come back and check the comments later. Okay, you ready? Let's get busy. So what we want to look at right now is set point weight. And if you don't know what a set point weight is, I'm going to give you the whole 100% definition of it. A set point weight is a weight that your body has a tendency to want to stay at. So, for example, for me, I had a set point weight when I was in my 40s all the way into almost my 50s. And that I had a hard time breaking free from. And I was at a 185, a 5'8", but I'm 5'7" now. Let's just, let's get real. But at that point, whatever I did, it did not matter. And I was just kind of disgusted with it. And I never, and at that time I was running around. I was taking my kids everywhere. I was homeschooling them, this, that, and the other thing. And so I just, gave it all up. I just gave it all up. It was just something that I did. I just stayed with it. I was just like, it did not matter. It seriously did not matter what I did. I always weighed 185. I could binge all day on chocolate. I'd weigh 185. I could diet. I could pull out all the stops and diet and make myself crazy. I still weighed 185, or I'd lose a few pounds. But then as soon as I ate a quote unquote normal meal, back to 185. It took forever to bust through that. But there is several things that you can do, and there are several ways. And if you've, been in that place where you've had a set point weight and you just can't bust through it, I'm going to show you how to do this and just explain that this is something that your body very much wants to do. Remember something. Everything that we do, all the things that are happening within our metabolism are all part of what our brain is telling our body what to do. Our bodies run on hormones. Our bodies run on hormones, and hormones are just nothing more than the messengers that tell your body how to function. And sometimes those hormones get messed up. But our bodies are constantly sending out information. And that's, food is information. That's part of it. But it's also calories. That's only a very small part of it. But we need to understand first and foremost, what is obesity? And I hate that word, but, for all intents and purposes, that's what they use in the medical community. And obesity is basically hormonal disruption. That's what it is. Vitamin D, believe it or not, it acts more like a hormone than anything else. It is a vitamin and what have you, but that's also important. That's part of the equation. If you have low vitamin D, you're going to have a hard time moving past that set point or a plateau. Sometimes what your set point is a mega plateau. And it is part of it, but the set point is worse because that's where your body wants to stay. That's what your body knows. So in order to break out of the set point, we have to break some stuff up. So Dr. Fung, Jason Fung, if you know who he is, he's incredible. And as a matter of fact, I have his book over here, but I cleaned my desk and it's over on my research table. But Jason Fung has said some really amazing things about this whole idea of disrupting, this whole hormonal pattern that we have with staying the same way. And part of it is, getting our brain around it and becoming aware of what it means for us to break up the set point. To break up the set point, we need to understand that we cannot keep doing the same thing over and over again. You know what that's from? That's Einstein's famous quote that's just the definition of insanity, doing the same thing. So what we have to do is take a look at everything, okay? So let's just talk first and foremost. We know that having a carbohydrate-rich diet is number one, the wrong way to go. That carbohydrate-rich diet is going to cause insulin to surge, and it's going to disrupt the hormones. Insulin is the fat-storing hormone. I've told you that right at the very beginning with the sprint. But here's the other thing that you need to understand, that even the skinniest person on earth, the person that you have the most, jealousy of, who's never had a problem with weight gain or anything like that, Dr. Fung will say, I can make any person I want fat. All they have to do is inject them with insulin. That's it. Because our fat cells go from small to big, and there's a whole fat cell apoptosis, which is the killing of cells. And it's a long process. I'm going to tell you about that at a later date, but we need to, start at a building place, because why can't I say it? Apoptosis. Apoptosis is what it is. Apoptosis. APOPTISIS. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, when we kill those fat cells off, at first they don't get killed off. They just shrink down in size. And you can see fat cells. You can see them on a slide. They're all different sizes. There's new fat cells and there's old fat cells. There's little tiny ones and there's great big huge ones. When you start getting rid of the insulin surges in your life, then we have to start looking for alternative fuels. That's how this whole thing turns about. And when we're using, instead of having the insulin surging all the time, and we're using alternative fuels, that's when we start tapping into that fat and draining those cells. And then the cells need to be cleaned up, and that's part of the whole autophagy thing. And the autophagy thing is when we kill off the cells and clean them up. And when we're in the ketosis state and we're using intermittent fasting and piggybacking those two together, what happens is those cells then, instead of just being a metabolic cleanup for when we're doing a fasting thing, it becomes energy. And you will notice this as you change your fuel sources, that suddenly the brain fog starts to lift. You start to get rid of all those aches and pains, and you can really sit there and focus and get down on what it is that you want to get down on, right? This is a big deal. And this is why it's so critical that we get into that place. And this is also part and parcel of the solution to breaking through and breaking free from your set point weight. So we have to look at, how do we keep the insulin from surging? And it's very simple. We have to go to a very low carbohydrate diet. And for most of us who are women of a certain age, we need to really look at reducing those carbohydrates. And a lot of times that's bringing down those low carbohydrates much lower than maybe we had done 10, 15, 20 years ago. Especially if you're in my age category, postmenopausal, in your 60s, you have to be very, very restrictive with yourself. And let me just say this. One of the things that happens, and I noticed this myself, this is kind of a funny, true confession, but I am 5 foot, almost about between 5'7" and 5'8", more into the 5'7" size, right? And it's just Mark and I. Mark is 6'1.5", 6'2". He weighs 225 pounds. And I noticed I was eating the same amount of food as he was. That is what will keep you at your set point, is eating too many calories. Now, again, it is not all about calories any more than your scale is all about your body composition. It is one measurement. But we have to look at that and we have to plug that into the equation, because really, how much fuel do you need? We can't, when we go to the fuel pump and we fill up our cars, we can't put the thing, the gas pump in there and just keep going and filling it up as if it's an 18-wheeler, when in reality, you're filling up a little SUV. There's a big difference. Gas tanks, how much is there and how much do you need? So in order to get this straight, we have to evaluate the diet itself. What are we eating? And remember that everything causes eventually an insulin surge, because we do need our insulin, okay? But we don't need it in big gushing gobs like we do when we're eating all these carbohydrates. We can't survive without the insulin. The insulin's there for a good reason, but just smaller amounts. This is why diabetics who are on insulin shots have such a hard time losing weight. Nearly impossible. But their body isn't utilizing the insulin that they have. So the key is to get into a state of ketosis by getting rid of all those darn carbohydrates. Getting rid of the carbohydrates, getting rid of the grains, the flour, the sugar, and all that garbage, because it is garbage and it does add up, and we don't have the capacity to burn it up like we did when we were 20 or 30 years old. End of story. If you don't believe me, look at your butt. It's just that simple. It's the truth. And then we have to look, the next thing that we have to look at, which is a big shocker, is how much protein are we eating? Now, here's the thing. This is where it gets kind of fuzzy, and really, this is where we have to personalize. As we get older, our need for protein increases, because protein is what is utilized by our body for repair. At night when you're sleeping, your body is picking out the protein and helping you to repair your organs, your gut, your whatever needs to be repaired. And especially you are in a state of repair if you have fasted for, if you are going to bed in a fasted state. In other words, you haven't eaten for 3 hours, and then you're going to allow that fasted state overnight, and you wake up still fasted. This is how our bodies repair. This is just basic, right? So if we're allowing our bodies to repair and we're giving our bodies what they need to repair, then we need to remember that there's a lot going on here. And part of that repair needs to happen is our gut. This is part of the missing piece. And this is we're going to talk about that in just half a second. But first I want to talk about the protein. That protein piece needs to be in place. Now, how much protein do you need? One of the things you need to look at is, are you eating as much protein as your spouse? If he's eating an 8-ounce portion of protein, you should be eating probably a 6-ounce, because chances are he's bigger than you. We don't need to eat as much as a man, and we don't need to eat as much as we did when we were 20 or 30. We need to bring our portion sizes down according to what our energy output is. That means if we're out there moving it, then yeah, we're going to eat a little bit more protein, and that's fine. But if we're eating too much protein, guess what happens to that? In the absence of the carbohydrates, then that's going to turn into an insulin surge as well, because that's the secondary layer of this whole thing. And you will surge your insulin if you've had too much protein. And this is why in the sprint, I bring it down to 6 ounces, even though in the smoothie, you still get a little protein. In what you actually see is 6 ounces, and that's divided up into 2 meals. And again, personalized. That's what this group is all about. But protein is necessary. But one of the things we need to look at is how much protein have we been eating and how much do we really need? And when we build a plate, and we've got mostly greens, we've got greens and fiber, those are the nutrients and the fiber that is absolutely crucial. And then we've got the protein that we need, which is absolutely crucial, but it doesn't need to be too much, because again, your body's going to look at that and say, oh, let's make your blood sugar go up and let's make that insulin surge. Actually, it's the insulin surge, blood sugar goes up. That's the response. So we got to look at that. And then we got to look at the fat. And the fat is one of the missing pieces that a lot of times happens in this whole game. And we get scared of fat. We have been scared of fat for so long. We can't have too much, but we can't have too little. And finding the personal, reliable meal and how that needs to look and how you have to dial that in for yourself is crucial. this is how you find your own piece of the puzzle, your own piece of the, I shouldn't say pie, but seriously, your meal is going to look different than mine. Mine's going to look different than yours. We have different goals. We have different places in our lives. We have different, exercise and whatever that we're doing. And we have to be respectful of that so that we can move the needle. And one of the things that I want you to do, and now that you are in the club, it's time to start keeping a food journal. Now, the only time I would ever say this is now. If you need to, and you have no idea how much you're eating, I need you to start weighing and measuring it just so you can have an idea. And start, like this is a cup for your hand. A deck of cards is about 4 ounces, 5 ounces of protein. Your little pinky, this part, or a pair of dice, that's like an ounce of cheese. Things like that you can do with your hand or whatever to figure out your portion size. But here's the thing about portion sizes. Portion sizes help you to rein in what you need. Because we need to eat what we need. We don't need to eat over the top of that. Over the top of that creates this insulin surge. And we have to be very, very mindful of our portion sizes. But I want you to only understand what that looks like so that you can say, oh, I got about a cup of greens on my plate or whatever. I think we're all done with the Weight Watchers style, the counting the calories, the measuring, the weighing and all of that. But if you don't have a clue of what that looks like, then you need to do it just so that you know what you're doing, because you will be surprised that what you're thinking is a good portion to be eating, you're eating way too much. Because it's interesting. As your stomach starts to shrink as you intermittently fast and go with a hot melt type of a diet, you'll see that you're eating less than you need than you did before, and you're doing fine. You're doing better, actually. You're not falling asleep in the middle of the day. Marlo talked about having to take that afternoon nap, and she never does anymore. She doesn't have to take an afternoon nap because she's focused, and she's also fueled on fat. She's fueled on her own ketones and her own fat, which clears up the brain fog. It's incredible how that works. So we have to look at the protein consumption, and we also have to look at the consumption of how many fats are we getting in. Every meal needs to be decorated, okay? And I say that. We have, the oil and vinegar recipe, my vinaigrette recipe that we have. That's one way to do it. I always recommend avocado. I recommend eating the whole egg. I recommend eating some nuts. Those have to be portion controlled. Yeah. For us who are in the place of trying to lose body clutter, this is what we need to do. It's just part of the whole thing. We have to look at the nuts. I went crazy with some nuts and some peanut butter or some almond butter that I had in the refrigerator. And it's just something that I realized I can't have in the house because I look at it and I rationalize that this is a good, healthy thing. So therefore, and no, you can't, you have to count them out, 10 nuts, 10 nut halves. If it's pecans or walnuts, 10 nut halves. That's it. And it's with a meal. It's not a snack. No snacking. We get rid of the snacking because snacking is detrimental to us, keeps the blood sugar levels going up, and there goes your insulin, and you will not lose weight. And not only that, but you'll never get to the really fasted state, and that's the state of repair. Such an important thing. Our moms were right. Grandma was right. Don't eat between meals. It's true. And then we have to look at, there's some protective factors that we can add in. Have you wondered why in the Sprint that we put that vinegar and water in? They don't even have the answers. All the science and everything that I'm finding, at least at this point, the science doesn't give us the full scope of everything. But here's a couple of things to take into consideration. Vinegar, apple cider vinegar, the organic kind with the mother, very important, has prebiotic characteristics. And prebiotics feed your gut. And that's where I'm kind of circling back on the wagons here. Your gut health has everything to do with your weight that you are today. And that's part of the thing that we're going to do is be healing our guts. I'm going to take you through a whole healing your gut thing. That will be on another lesson. But just remember this. Prebiotics and probiotics, super important. I take my probiotic at night before I go to bed. I take the Get Lean because I'm working off of that science that shows that if I take the Get Lean probiotic and take the Fiber Mender itself every day, in 8 weeks I'm going to lose 8 pounds by doing nothing. So I've just started that, and this is part of the science. I like that. Science works for me. That's helpful. So I'm going to do that. Probiotics help build your gut. It gives your body the extra guys that you need. There's billions of probiotics in there, and they help you. They're going to give you everything that you need. We have 2 different kinds in the store, by the way. Prebiotics feed the good guys. It's like the chow line. It's like the mess tent is set up in your gut, and it's like food for everyone. You need prebiotics, and prebiotic foods come in fermented foods as well. And I like to say stay away from the dairy type, unless you do with people always ask me, well, what about kefir? What about Greek yogurt? What about this? What about that? Well, if you can do it without the inflammation, then fine. If it slows down your weight loss, then you know the answer to that. Just get rid of it. Water kefir works. You can get all kinds of fermented foods and sauerkraut, kimchi, those kind of things. There are things out there. And believe me, I love all the dairy, but the dairy doesn't love me. So I have to stay very cautiously aware of that, away from that. And if you are going to do dairy, you need to look at using cheese only as a condiment and making sure that that cheese has been fermented for at least 120 days, because then the lactose is broken down. That it has no effect which is the milk sugar in there, right? But it has no effect on casein, which is the protein. And that is what most people are more allergic to than just a lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance means you fart when you eat a bunch of dairy. But having a bloated gut, rosacea or breakouts, and the inability to lose weight means that you are casein sensitive. And there's nothing you can do about casein. It's in the product itself, regardless. So just understand that the lactose is the only thing that's broken down and almost disappears. Now, ghee is the only, and butter doesn't have those qualities, but ghee is like 99.9% dairy free because it's just the oil, and the milk solids are gone. But even so, dairy, you can withstand taking in a little bit of butter, even though it has the milk solids in it. Still, it's not going to affect you like cheese and what have you, unless you have a severe sensitivity or even an allergy. Okay? So, this is where it gets good. With all of these things that we're doing, with the anti-inflammatory approach, with the sprint, with the this, with the that, where we dial it in and get rid of this set point garbage once and for all is when we start to intermittently fast. Now, I hope everybody here anyway is on at least doing 12 hours, with no snacking in between. That's how we train our hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin. Otherwise, they're out of control and we are pretty much hopeless. And seriously, because everything, there's this cascade effect, and this is one of the things that we can't get corrected or healed. When we can get our ghrelin and our leptin to behave, that makes a big difference, because then we have more control, right? When we have that part in control, then the rest of it everybody starts to fall into place. Now, intermittent fasting, though, when we go from 12 to maybe 16 to 18 hours, or even one meal a day like Marla's doing, that all works. And it starts a whole different chemical reaction in your body. And it breaks into and weakens that set point weight. It weakens the set point weight until it doesn't anymore. And this is why we change things up. Now, right now, and I'm always using Marla as an example because I am intensely into her life every single day. I know exactly what she weighs every single day. I see it. We message back and forth, and so I see it. And here's the thing you need to know. When something you're doing stops working, then you need to reevaluate, and what we say is shake the box. So for me, what I had to do, because I just stayed where I was still losing weight. I was using my tape, still losing inches, but my weight stayed the same. Something wasn't quite there. And so I started adding in 36-hour fasting. Now, not for the faint of heart. It's something that you do when you need to shake the box and to get things going again. And I did, and now I'm down finally 15 pounds instead of just the 10 and the 12 that I was holding on to, and now I've lost another 3 pounds since. It happens as it happens, and we need to constantly looking at what we can do in order to shake the box and to make the needle move again. And for me, it's getting, I had an old set point of 185 way back in the day, and then when I lost weight, I had a new set point, and I never put the weight back on that I took off initially from, when we wrote Body Clutter. Fortunately, I never got back to 237. But I did put some weight back on, then I lost it again, and then I did put some weight back on after with, my mom and all of that. And I am losing it, and I think I've got another few pounds to go. I'll see how I am, and I'm measuring and weighing and doing all the things that we do. But, the set point changes too. So to get past that, we have to constantly be adjusting and finding our own perfect formula. And it's very individual. It's very much according to where you are hormonally, sexually as a woman. If you are perimenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal, or even, ahead of that, or even having polycystic ovarian syndrome, that also plays into it. All of these things play into it, and we always have to be looking at what the other piece is. But doing all of these things, mixing all of these things in, makes all the difference in the world. And the other thing that when I was talking about the protective factors, there's two. Sorry, I went on a little tangent. Vinegar is one. And the vinegar drink is, of course, in the sprint, and you keep doing that. It does help bring down your blood glucose levels because it helps with the insulin surges. It's something that you can do. And it's easy, it's cheap, and you also have the prebiotic in there, right? There's also fiber. Fiber does another thing, and we have the Fiber Mender, and the Fiber Mender is fantastic for filling up your stomach. It works again with the probiotic that I told you about, Get Lean. And also, it helps to protect your digestive system, which, again, it's back to the whole thing with gut health, which we're going to be looking at for our next thing. I think that's the next thing that we need to be looking at, because our gut health is everything. We have to protect our gut health. We have to protect the whole digestive process. And next time, I am going to talk about your digestion and how it affects your gut. And probably we're going to go into the next one even after that and talk about correcting a leaky gut, because we all pretty much are battling that all the time. And when we get control of those things, and we get control of our digestion, and we're getting 100% from the food that we're eating, things start to change. Because your digestion is changing, and because you've put it on point, you will watch your appetite get corrected. You will feel better, and you won't feel like you've got bricks laying on the bottom of your stomach. You'll poop like a queen, and you'll generally feel better, and it will help to correct the set point weight. It's really important. All these things come in hand. And the last thing too that you have to look at is water. If you are not drinking enough water, my goodness, you will be stuck. You will be stuck. Water is really that critical importance. And remember, your bone broth counts, your tea counts, your coffee counts, any kind of hydration counts. That's what the new science is telling us. It's crazy. Now, your set point is part and parcel of your metabolism. And your set point can hold your metabolism hostage. So a couple of things that you can do that will also help bust through this whole set point thing is to remember that you need to get that protein in. This is why I love the collagen shots. I love dirty fasting and collagen loading. Dirty fasting and collagen loading together, if you remember I talked about those in the webinar, is a needle mover. Because first of all, you'll be giving your body the collagen it needs, big time. You'll be getting the protein in. You'll be adding in the fiber as well if you put the fiber mender in there, which makes a big deal. And it helps you to have control when you do eat your next meal, because you're not going to be ravenously hungry and take apart, a door just to get into the food, the refrigerator door just to get into it. It's a big deal. If you can, and if you do this too, it will help to reset your set point, and it helps to get control too of your hunger hormones. The other thing that you need to look at is sleep. And I told you about this in the webinar too. Sleep in a cool room, sleep in a dark room, and sleep naked. Those things really help. And if you need to go a step deeper, there's some supplements that you can take. GABA is one, GABA, and that helps to turn off the chatter in the back of your head. I love that stuff. And I have taken it in the past. I'm no longer taking it, but that works. Also, HTP, that also helps to shut down your mind a little bit so that you can just go right into a deep sleep. Another thing you can do is use an app on your phone and put a headset in and just relax your body and do a meditative sleep thing beforehand. Make sure you stop drinking your water about, right after dinner. I have a bad habit of going and drinking about 2 cans of mineral water after dinner, because it just tastes so refreshing. But then I end up, getting up a couple of times at night. That disturbs your sleep. The other thing is to look at your feeding window. Okay, we are intermittently fasting. So figure out, what time is it that I start to eat? What time do I end eating? And when I say that, it's where you're going to put your meals, not a continuous eating continuum. Where are you going to put your meals? So if you are doing 12 and 12, so 7 a.m. you start with a breakfast smoothie, and then you go to lunchtime, 5 hours later, you have a meal there. And then at 6 o'clock you have dinner. And then at 7 o'clock, you're done. You're absolutely done. There's no other food going in. That's an eating window of 12 hours. If you do it at lunchtime, there's a smaller eating window. If you're doing 1 meal a day, that's an even smaller window. But again, that is a personal thing. We need to work ourselves up into it. And if it's appropriate for you. If it's not appropriate for you, I had somebody talking to me about having an issue with an eating disorder. And I said, don't do this. This isn't for you. Do what works best. But 12 and 12, that is a normal way to eat, normal. And that is how we dial in our body's healing mechanism, and we can train our hunger hormones. We could at least do that with the 12 and 12. But if you have an eating disorder, trying to train yourself into intermittent fasting, not a good idea. Okay? Your inner nutritional guru will tell you that, because she's going to say, danger, danger, and you know that. And the last thing that you want to do is make sure that you have the Target Trifecta. The Target Trifecta is your guide for everything. Everything that goes in your mouth when it's a meal. You need to have adequate fat, and the healthy fat. We've talked about that, and you've done the sprint and hot melt and all that. You know what it is. And then you need to make sure that you're getting the fiber in with your greens. And so what is it? It's fat, fiber, and protein, and adequate protein. And you know that, again, we're going to be dialing that in. But for right now, it is about 6 ounces, give or take, depending on the size woman you are. I am a taller woman. I'm going to go with that full 6 ounces until it's no longer working. And then I might bring it down a bit if my blood sugar tells me differently. So that's what I have for you on breaking through on the set point. And I hope you found that helpful. And there you go. There we go. Hi, guys. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? If there's anything that I can answer for you, and I want to, I can bring you on screen, but if you have questions, start asking questions, and, I will totally help you out with that. Or I'll just sit here and drink hot melt mix for the next, how many minutes do I have? For the next 10 minutes? I'm looking. Will the custom menu planner act as a good journal? No. Here's the thing, and I hope this all makes sense to you. One of the parts of taking responsibility for yourself is writing down your food, planning your food and writing it down. Marla does this with her calendar every single day. So she can go back and connect the dots if she needs to. I love this because sometimes we don't see the pattern in the day-to-day, but we need the big picture to see the pattern. So the custom menu planner, let me just explain what that is. It is a platform that you log into and create your own meal plan. And your meal plan is going to be different than everybody else's. So there might be one meal a day. There might be 2 meals a day, right? It's all there. You can just go ahead and find and search for and get some different recipes. That's what it's for. But your food journal is basically like a food diary so that you can see, this is what I did and this is what I do. And this is how it helps me, and you can write little notes in there and it'll help a lot. Okay. Let's see. We got some more questions, so that should help. Yeah, Marla talked. That was good. I hope that makes sense. So in other words, just write down what you're doing. The custom menu planner is going to help you pull recipes and make a plan for yourself. It's going to be super helpful, but it's not in place of a journal. Write your stuff down so that you know exactly what you're doing. Write down how much water. Marla does all of that too. She writes down how much water she's had to drink and all of it. It keeps you accountable to yourself, and it also gives you a good snapshot of what's going on. When our liver is decluttering glycogen, what does this do to our insulin levels? Well, not really that much because the glycogen is already produced as a fuel source. So every once in a while, though, you can get like a sudden surge in your blood glucose, which means your insulin might have spiked a little bit. And it doesn't, and just so you know, too, your glycogen, it's easy to deplete. It's fast to deplete, but there's other things going on. There's a cleanup going on. There's a metabolic mess. And especially if you have fatty liver, there's other things that your body's cleaning out besides the glycogen. So lots of different things affect insulin levels, including stress. That's why I make such a big deal about stress. So what you need to do is just make sure that you're hydrating adequately and you have a little bit of patience with yourself. And remember this. It didn't take you, 3 weeks to put on the weight, and it's going to take you a little bit longer than 3 weeks probably to declutter your liver. Your liver isn't just about the glycogen. There's a lot of other things going on inside. If we are 18 to 20 hour fasting, do we still break fast with a smoothie and then cram in one meal or just skip a smoothie? This is where, that's a really good question, Liberté, I think. I'm not sure how to say your name. I'm sorry. But here's what I would say about that. I would do a collagen shot for that. And Marla there's a little recipe in the Sprint. She's done a lovely little collagen shot. But get the collagen in. I think we need to start taking our collagen seriously because this is going to have an impact on how we remodel our skin and our bones. That's right. We get to remodel that. Do you know that we are constantly turning over cells? And if our cells, when it's time to turn them over, and it's not all at one time, it's every single day. Every single day, you have cells that are dying, and every single day, you have new cells that are being produced. If you have adequate building materials in there, things are going to, it's going to help you with your portion control and put you back in the driver's seat. For some of us, binge eating and eating too fast and eating too much is a real issue. This is a safeguard. It's also a collagen loader that's going to make all the difference on remodeling your skin and your bones. And it's also going to give you the nutrients that you need. If you're down to one meal, you have to be very specific on your nutrients because you're only eating one meal a day. You're also putting your body on notice. Like these are the nutrients that you're getting, and when it comes in, you're starting to tame the ghrelin, which is the gremlin, and it's the one that's the big problem, right? This is the one that says eat, 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 and it's also giving your leptin the necessary love that it needs so that it can control your appetite. So keep that in mind. That's a biggie. I've got Jill who wants to come on. How can I go from an RX sleeping meds to sleeping on my own? You got to talk to your doctor and tell them you want to step down from that. Talk to your doctor first and see what your doctor says, because a lot of times this is one of the big issues. So I would strongly suggest that. And then from there, you develop a sleep routine. I'm going to be talking more about sleep as we go, and that's going to be one of our sessions. We're going to get deep into sleep and make it happen for you. I'm going to share with you some supplements that work, and I don't carry them. They're on Amazon, so don't worry. I'm not like trying to make a sale out of this. And I'm going to also show you a sleep routine that is dialed in, will make all the difference in the world for you. Okay. Betsy's asking, is there a recipe for Marla's Key Lime protein shots? Yes, it's in the Sprint. And if you look at the little picture of her shot, there's two of them. One that I posted, the recipe is in there. So good, by the way. Let's see. How many proteins do eggs have? I don't know. I haven't calculated them. But I think two eggs is going to give you the adequate protein. I have that calculated somewhere else. There's a great food journals. Leanne posted it last night. Let's see. Thank you. My gremlins and leprechauns are acting up. Do you have a quota? Give a quota on black coffee. Jill, you want to come on? You said you wanted to come on. I'm going to make you come on. Where are you? Oh, well, I can't. Jill, add. Oh, I don't know how to do that. You would think I know how to do that. Let me tell you about black coffee. I love black coffee. I think it's wonderful. But we also have to take a look at this, okay? Let me see if that works. Looks like you have a green arrow. Oh, heck. You guys, hopefully sometime we'll get this figured out. If you're a fast metabolizer with caffeine, you don't want to be drinking too much coffee. If you're not, then, you'll know it. You know it by two different things. One is if you've done a genetic testing, if you've done, 31andMe, 21andMe, whatever, the genetic testing. If you've done that, it will tell you if you're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer. If you're a slow metabolizer, you can drink almost as much coffee as you want. If you are a fast metabolizer, you will get into jitterbug city. So you don't need a genetics test to tell you that, right? So have some, just have some sense with yourself about what is too much. I can go for about 3 cups, and at that point, I've got to be done with it, or I'll just be like this, and it's not good. I'm a fast metabolizer. Gemma says, we have fast till 3. How late at night can we have a meal? When do you go to bed? Let's go from that point. And don't go as late as you think you can. I think what you need to do, if you fast till 3, go ahead and break your fast and have something small. I do this a lot. I will have like a big cup of bone broth oftentimes, and even a collagen shot. And that will be my breaking of my fast for my lunch. And that 23andMe. Thanks, Marla. Gosh, why can't I think of the numbers? And then the second part of that would be have a regular dinner at your regular time. But don't snack into the night. Don't, this getting to bed with at least 3 hours of fasting between your last meal, your dinner, and going to bed is going to make a big difference in how you feel and give your body the heads up that it needs so that you're saying, yes, go ahead and start healing. Okay. We have, where can we get the green matcha tea that is in the smoothie? You can find it on Amazon. You can find it anywhere. There's 6 to 7 grams of protein in an egg. Good. 1 chicken egg has 6 to, depending if it's large to jumbo. There you go. Those are all good information. So there you go, you guys. This is, here's the thing that you need to do. Bottom line, you have to constantly looking at not what everybody else is doing, but what is working for you. And this is why now I'm saying to you, I want you to keep a journal. For those of you who are yearly, who have joined the club for a year, you are going to be getting an appointment reminder to make an appointment, and you'll be getting a questionnaire to fill out. And in that questionnaire, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to be asking for a few pages of your food journal or what a typical day looks like. And what we have to look at with this is when we're looking at our typical days and what we're doing and what we're not doing, we can look at it with, just a very objective point of view and say, oh, my goodness, I'm not getting in nearly enough greens, or there's not a lot of fiber in there, or, oh, wow, I'm way overeating protein, or I'm snacking, or good grief, I haven't drank enough water. All of those things, those are all parts of those little tiny pieces of the puzzle for your own metabolism, for your own busting through your own set point. So if you've been stuck on a set point or a plateau or whatever, and you can't figure out what's going on, that food journal is going to be your guide. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. It is, because I promise you, a pattern always emerges. And I have been doing this for over 25 years. I have never not seen a food journal break the question, like, what's going on here? Your food journal will tell you, because we can't see the forest through the trees, but we can look at the big map. We can look at the big map. And when you are really on top of it with a food journal, and I'm not talking about doing this for every day of your life. And for a food journal, you can just pick up any old notebook. I don't care. Just, this is what you need to do. Okay. Here's how to keep a food journal. Write the date, write the time that you eat, and write exactly what it is that you're eating. Write down how much water you've had for the day. And, the smart money is on. This is what I do. This is hot milk mix, but I fill up all my water bottles and stick them in the fridge so I can make sure that I'm just pulling water. I don't have to measure every time. It's just there. It's in the fridge. I've got it. That way I'm getting in the water that I need. Okay. And then you write down, if you want to, extra bonus points for this and super helpful. Write down your state of mind. Stressed, in a rush, felt like crap afterwards, didn't digest well. If you don't have a gallbladder and you had to have dumping syndrome, you work that down. Marla does this too, because we keep track of all of that. She doesn't have a gallbladder. I have her taking digestive enzymes. She has this whole routine before dinner routine, and it keeps her from that. It keeps her from acid reflux. These are things that we do. We have protective measures, but we need to know what you're doing first. And you will see this. That's all in the questionnaire that I ask you. And just, treat this very, very seriously, because this is the year for you. This is the year where we're turning your ship around and we're getting you off the diet merry-go-round, the carousel of crazy. It stops this year. We're all getting off of it together. We're going to land on the ground and we're going to just say, we did it. So that's how you do it. And Marla uses her calendar. So critical. That calendar shows you everything. And you can use your little calendar or your big calendar. I don't care. Whatever you want to use. But you need to write it down. And see, for her, using her calendar is smart. She's one meal a day and she knows what time. She eats dinner at 6 o'clock every night. Pretty much. So for her, I don't need, that kind of information. For you, you might need a little more detail. You might be eating more than that. You might need more detail. So whatever detail you can put in there, all the better. And Marla and I have done this too. We will go back and we'll look at it and we'll say, what was going on? Oh, you were highly stressed. Remember that call? You haven't heard from Ben and all this, and you've been feeling all these things. And it shows up. Shows up on the scale, shows up on your blood sugar, shows up everywhere. Your body is super sensitive and it picks up all of these things. So remember that. And so that's why I'm saying on your food journal, when you're filling it out, do that. Put that information in there because it's extra and it'll help you to see what's going on. Okay? So there you go. Session number 1 down. And I could have talked about this for another hour. There's so much information about this, and it will be going in our book, I promise you. And we're going to get into digestive health and healing your gut in the next sessions, because it's going to take a lot. And just know this, that if you are keeping track of this, and if you are trusting your own inner nutritional guru and using all your tools, you are going to get this done. Have a vision of yourself that's so much bigger than it is right now, okay? Promise me you'll do that. That's part of this whole thing. That's part of this whole thing. And I love you, and I'm here for you, and I will not let you fall. Just keep me apprised of what's going on, okay? That's what this little clubhouse is all about. So thanks for joining me. Let's go have some tea with Marla. What do you say? I'm there. I'm going to go get my teapot going right now. Take care, guys. Peace.